Good morning. Imagine this is our last service for March. Time certainly goes by very quickly, doesn't it? I said, wow, this is the last service for March. But welcome, it is good to see all of you here today. The ringing of the concho signifies the start of the service. Please sit quietly, then we'll have our concho ringing. Please rise for the meditation, followed by the chanting in Pali and English of the Vandana and Tisarana.
Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Please be seated. We'll now have the Sambujo and Aspiration by Reverend Sumikawa.
Fortunate are we who, upon having heard the divine truth and having been ever given everlasting life, may leave this human existence in peace and tranquility, be surrounded in Amida's infinite wisdom and inconceivable compassion. We honor with deep gratitude the members, families, friends, and pets of the Wynwood Buddhist Temple who have passed away in the month of March. With deepest gratitude to the boundless, inconceivable blessings of Amida Buddha, we take eternal refuge in the three treasures of this teaching. Namo Amida Butsu.
Today's remembrance. We will now have the remembrance of those who passed away this month in any year, individuals and pets. Reverend Sumikawa will hit the gong several times to start the portion of the service. Then the names of the deceased will be called. Please go forward and just offer incense. Then Reverend Sumikawa will hit the gong again for the next names. After the last name is called and incense offered, he will hit the gong several times. He will then go directly into the Sutra Shoshinge from pages 11 to 18, and then to the bottom of page 58 in this red Jodo Shinshu book. Again, it's pages 11 to 18, and then to page 58 at the bottom. Masao Asada and Taiichi Nishita, sorry. Wally and Miyoko Kusano. Kiyo Kukino. Howard Nakamura. And Edward Inaba and Hagie Yanagisawa.
即を超絶合悪臭一切全幕本部人妄信如来偶然願仏言の来生下者善人妙分大理けびら仏本願念仏邪言行満なく修行信行十字人に難難重心難昔
Please rise and turn to page 4 in the same book for the recitation creed on page 4. Page 4. Casting off the self-power mind of the varied practices and disciples, we entrust ourselves single-mindedly to Amida Tathagata
to save us in regard to the one great matter of birth. With one thought moment of entrusting, we know that we are saved and that our birth is settled. After this, we say the name in joy and gratitude, repaying the Buddha's graciousness. We acknowledge gratefully that we are able to hear and understand this teaching because of the benevolence of our Master having appeared in this world and of the successes in the transmission and good teachers whose words were not shallow. Beyond this, we will observe the established rules of conduct throughout our lives. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo
Namo
Amida
Butsu.
Butsu. Please continue to stand for the Gatha, hands together in Gasho. On page, actually it's the back of the book. It's the second item that's on the back of the book. Hands together in Gasho.
Grateful for each day. hands together in Gashore, in truth with love and in all ways, peacefully we go. We recite the Nembutsu, grateful for each day. Namu Amida Butsu, reverently we say. Seek to follow the Eightfold Path, hands together in Gashore, in truth with love and in all ways, peacefully we go.
Please be seated. This morning, our speaker, of course, for Remembrance Day is our own Reverend Bert Sumikawa. Sensei?
Namando, namando, namando. Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wynwood Buddhist Temple's regular Sunday Dharma service. Well, last Sunday we had a wonderful Dharma message by Reverend Mariko Nishiyama of Pearl City, Honganji. And afterwards, I had lunch with her. She explained to me why she did it the way she did. She said that she wanted to practice like the way they do it in Japan. I said, oh boy, did you look at the clock? Because in Japan, when they do Dharma message, it's about an hour, hour and a half with no notes. They just ramble on and on and on and on. So I said, what was your intention? Do you do this at Pearl City? Oh, no, not in Pearl City. So we're guinea pigs. Yeah. But I have to explain what I meant by guinea pig. Anyway, I want to kind of clarify a little bit of what she was talking about last week. The reason is that this is a very important concept. And this concept was drawn by or written by one of the 7 masters from China by the name of Shan Tao. And in Japanese, he's called Zendo. So when we do the Shoshinge, when we do the whole Shoshinge, there's a part where we say, Zendo Dokumyo Bushoi. Well, that's what we'll be talking about. So Shan Tao talked about this river, 2 rivers that are separated by a narrow, narrow white path. So I'm going to draw this white path first. A very narrow white path. On both sides, on either side of the path is water. One side is a river of water. So the raging waves lapping up against the white path. This is water. On the other side is a river of fire, raging fires, often lapping up towards this white path. At the bottom of this river is a human being trying to cross this river. But on the side of this human being, there's other human beings and beasts telling this man, don't go. Because if you go across, you're only going to fall into one of the river of either you're going to fall into the river of fire or you're going to fall into the river of water and you're going to drown. So don't go. Stay on this side of the river, this side of the path where you can enjoy life. You can enjoy life. You can rob people. You can steal. You can be happy. You can have all the comforts of the world. But on the side is the Buddha, Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni is telling these people, this person here, go, Go across the white path. Go across the right path, and I will protect you. This path is so narrow, though. It's afraid. What does it represent? The water represents our greed, our desire for everything that we want. The river of fire is the same thing. It's our ignorance. It's our stupidity. It's how we determine things that are wrong. We think they're right, but they're wrong. Shakyamuni is urging this person, go across. The bandits, which is our blind passions, also telling the man, don't go, stay here. But on the other side of the white path, Shakyamuni is Amida Buddha. Amida Buddha is telling, no, just come. Come as you are. I'll lead you. The Dharma will lead you on the right path to enlightenment. This is the Dharma. Even though it's scary sometimes. We're going through this pandemic that has been with us for 2 years. Very scary stuff. Thousands and thousands of people have died. Thousands and thousands of people have gone into the hospital. But still, Shakyamuni is urging us, listen to the Dharma, and you'll be all right. Amida Buddha is on the other side. Just come as you are. That's all. And they just see the Nimbutsu in gratitude. So that is the story of the river of white, the two rivers and the white path. I think I draw too well. Okay? Thank you. So now, what did you do to my Dharma message anyway? Okay. This is not Japan, so I have notes. So let's put our hands together. In order to guide sentient beings, even though they commit evil all their lives, Amida urges them to say the name, vowing not to attain Buddhahood if they are not born into the Pure Land. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. I want to turn this one off. Because it kind of echoes, yeah? So this was taken from Wasan number 236 of the Jodo Wasan, or the Hymn of the Pure Land. You know, a while back, as I recall, there was a message given by Reverend Art Kaufman, who was a guest here last year. He based one of his talks on a song sung by the Rolling Stones. Those of you my age or a little younger remember the Rolling Stones. And the song was, I Ain't Got No Satisfaction. I remember that song very well. It was a rock song then. And like so many of them, you know, they carried a message, perhaps about the youth and its quest for something deeper and more meaningful in our lives at that time. At the Talk Story session in the dining room afterwards, we had a good discussion on this subject. And this so-called problem is something that the Buddha talked about in the larger sutra written over 2 millennia ago. Well, in it, the Buddha said, in reference to people's dissatisfaction in life, whatever the reason, it all boils down to a dissatisfaction with one's lot. And this will cause unhappiness. The Buddha said to the Bodhisattva Maitreya and to others, people of the world being weak in virtue engage in strife over matters that are not urgent. And in the midst of abject wickedness and extreme afflictions, they often painstakingly toil for their living. Whether noble or whether they are corrupt, rich or poor, young or old, male or female, all worry about wealth and property. In this, there is no difference between the rich and the poor, For both have their anxieties. Groaning in dejection and sorrow, they pile up thoughts of anguish, or driven by inner urges, they run wildly in all directions, and so they have no time for peace or for rest. And the Buddha goes on, for example, if they own fields, they're concerned about them. They have houses, they worry about them. With deepening troubles, they repeatedly sigh, and their anxiety increases, and torments them, and terrifies them. Anger seizes their minds, keeps them in constant agitation, increasingly tightens its grip, and hardens their hearts, and never leaves them. If they have no fields, they're unhappy and they want them. If they have no houses, they're unhappy and they want them. They have none of the 6 domestic animals, such as cows and horses, or they have no male or female servants, or lack money, wealth, clothes, food, or furnishings, they're unhappy and want those as well. If they possess some of them, others may be lacking. But even if by chance they come to possess everything, it will soon be lost and destroyed, and dejected and sorrowful, they may strive to obtain such things again. Well, during the discussion of the subject of death and afterlife came up, and the question was, you say that all you have to do is to have trust in Amida Buddha, and you'll go to the Pure Land. We can say that we put our trust in the Buddha and that we have no concerns or fears now, but think about it. Right now we have health and are breathing on our own, enjoying life. But how do you know what's going to happen when the time comes? It's easier to talk about it now. But how about then? I've heard a few times that when a family member was transitioning, well, someone would approach them and ask them, you want to be saved? You follow me. Well, during a person's most vulnerable moments, who knows what will happen? And that became a subject of discussion. Dr. Al Bloom discussed this very issue in one of his very many articles entitled Banishing Fears in the Afterlife, Shinran and the Last Moments of Life. In it, he writes that many non-religious and anti-religious opponents of religion say that religion capitalizes on human fears that are the result of our own limitations of knowledge and the ability to influence our general and our personal affairs. However, Shinran counters this by saying that despite our limitations, Amida Buddha, or true reality, only seeks our welfare and has offered us a way to salvation and spiritual liberation that does not exploit human weaknesses or depend on how our mind works, our feelings, or lack of faith. In other words, what Shinran was saying was that true entrusting is not generated from us, from ourselves, no, but it is a gift enabled by the vow of Amida Buddha. We are comforted when we read the Tanisho, chapter 7, that reads, in the person of Nembutsu opens up the great path of unobstructed freedom. The reason is that the gods of heaven and earth bow before the practice of true entrusting, and those of the world of demons and rival ways cannot obstruct such a person. As you all know, many religions encourage people to pray or to keep the gods happy, to avoid retribution. People have believed, and some still do, that whatever ills or difficulties they may encounter are the result of the action of a god or a demon as punishment for something they did. And therefore one needs to ask for forgiveness. All of you have heard the word bachi. Many of us believed in bachi. For example, I'll give you a very simple example. If somebody breaks his leg and walking around with a crutch, and he said, oh, let me try that crutch, see how it feels. He goes, you're going to get bachi. It's because you walk around with somebody else with crutches, you're going to break your leg too? That's what we mean. A lot of money and other resources are spent in the attempt to gain favor of the gods. Shinran, however, does not encourage such fears. There is no karmic retribution because everyone is embraced by Amida's vows and is therefore destined for birth in the Pure Land. Amida embraces us all in his compassion and frees us from all of those fears. Al Blue says that although we all have karmic histories, that history ends with trust in Amida's vows. No demon or enemy of the teaching can obstruct us because there is nothing superior to the Nembutsu that can stop it, as we read in Tanisho 7. In one of his teachings, an important feature stands out in Shinran's first letter in the Matosho, or A Lamp for the Latter Ages. In the Lamp for the Latter Ages, it says that the idea of Amida's coming at the moment of death is for those who seek birth in the Pure Land by doing various practices, for they are practitioners of self-power. The moment of death is of central concern to such people, for they have not yet attained true entrusting. We may also speak of Amida's coming at the moment of death in the case of those who, though they have committed the 10 transgressions and the 5 grave offenses throughout their lives, encounter a teacher in the hour of death and are led at the very end to utter the Nembutsu. The practice of true entrusting, however, abides in the stage of the truly settled, for he or she have already been grasped and never to be abandoned. There is no need to wait in anticipation for the moment of death, no need to rely on Amida's coming or us to worry about what we may think at our demise. The true entrusting of the primal vow has nothing to do with what our thoughts are or what our thoughts might be. It has nothing to do with what we do. Although it may be a moment of anxiety, it is the actual working of Amida's vow and not our own calculated thoughts that will determine birth in the Pure Land. And so we have nothing to do with it. There is this ancient story that recounts of how a queen of an Indian principality was given a flower to gaze on when she was about to die. While she looked at the flower, she saw an insect and died with the insect as her last thought. And so she became an insect in her new birth. Her family found out about it and sponsored services to free her to achieve a higher birth. Through such tales, ancient people were exhorted to devote themselves to one or another deity to secure their future afterlife. In Buddhism, it became the practice to recite the name of a Buddha thousands of times a day, so that this thought then would be on one's mind, thus getting a good birth. And since we do not know when our last breath will be, there is rituals developed to prepare for this moment. If we recall the traditional 6 levels of existence that we transmigrate between, they are the levels of hell, animals, hungry ghosts, angry spirits, human beings, and hell. The hell of the hungry ghosts is like the Obong story where the monk, Moggallana, rescued his mother by giving offerings to the monks. The most fearsome births are those in a hell or as an animal or a hungry ghost. Today, it is common to interpret these various categories of births as metaphors or psychological states of mind. However, in ancient times, as well as for some people and the Buddhist sects in this modern era, images are taken literally, raising fears for oneself or one's beloved deceased ancestors. These beliefs inspire services to bring merit to the deceased person, hopefully resulting in a higher birth. Incidentally, the 49-day memorial services were also designed for this purpose, to assist the dead as they pass through the various stages of judgment, which determines his or next transmigration. as you well know, Shinran rejected the idea of welcoming the Buddha at birth. He also rejected the elaborate ritual system that was designed to assure a good birth for one's deceased relative or friend. There was a tradition in Japan a long time ago where the dying patient would hold various colored cords connected to the hand of the Buddha image, symbolizing his coming to meet the devotee as he passes on. It is all designed to arouse a positive thought at the moment of death. I have drawn something for you. So, when you die, you tie some colored cords at the hand of Amida Buddha and hold fast onto it, assuring of Amida's coming to you at the moment of passing. That was over 1,000 years ago. Now we don't need to do this, right? But if you're still worried about it, you could do this. I'm just kidding. So there's also some very famous paintings that depict Amida Buddha descending from the Pure Land with his retinue to meet and guide the follower to the Pure Land. Shinran in his teachings rejected the idea of welcoming the Buddha at death, and also, I might add, rejected the elaborate ritual system that was designed to assure a good birth for one's deceased loved one. This was not necessary in Shinran's thinking because Amida's vow pledges that he will save all beings or will not become a Buddha. The sutra affirms that when he became a Buddha after 5 kalpas of sincere practice, he turned all of his merits over to us. The merit being enshrined in the name Namo Amida Butsu. When a person entrusts to this vow and recites the name in gratitude, in that moment of faith, in that moment, there is a meeting with the Buddha and the assurance of enlightenment. There is no transmigration to be feared because one becomes a Buddha immediately upon death. In one fell swoop, Shinran abolished all religious fears that have plagued humankind concerning their future destinies. Concerning Shinran's view of other power and the understanding that the devotee immediately becomes a Buddha upon death, he declares in chapter 5 of the Tanisho that as for me, Shinran, I have never said the Nembutsu even once for the repose of my departed mother or father. He goes on, if saying the Nembutsu was a good act in which I strove through my own powers, then I might direct the merit thus gained towards saving my parents. But this is not the case. So the title of my talk this morning was, No Worries, Amida's Got You Covered. We have no concern about what we would be thinking at the time of our passing. To our entrusting heart, it is not by our own calculation that we are in the embrace of ultimate compassion, but it is Amida's heart and mind that comes to us. A good way to remember this is through the Shaka sign. You remember Reverend Toshima, when he was here? He taught you about the Shaka sign, right? The Shaka sign, the little finger points away, or the thumb is always pointing towards the little finger. So the little finger is us, and the thumb is Amida. Always looking upon you, the little finger, even though you're looking away. The thumb is always looking at you. Amida is always looking at you. So whenever you're feeling down or in doubt, just give yourself the Shaka sign and everything will be okay. In addition, as you go through life, wherever you may be, if you are shy about saying the Namo Amida Butsu, just do this to yourself. Everything will be okay. By the way, shaka in Japanese is a Japanese word meaning Shakyamuni Buddha. So no worries, Amida's got you covered. Thank you all for listening. And now please join me in reverence as I read these words. There is nothing I can do to those that say they await the moment of death. The person whose Shinjin has become true and real, this being the benefit of the vow, has been grasped, never to be abandoned. Hence, he does not depend on Amida's coming at the moment of death. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. We're going to pass out papers and we're going to give you a little test about this.
Thank you, Reverend Sumikawa, for reminding us about all of that. Would you please rise and turn to page 117 for the Gatha, O Light of Asia, in this brown Praises of the Buddha book. And continue standing after that for the Nembutsu. Be seated. We'll now have announcements of our President Buditz.
Good morning. You know the masks are optional, yeah? Okay. Just making sure. I changed all the signs. So, okay. We don't have any guests today, but I see faces that I didn't see for a while, so welcome. Thanks, Shirley, for being MC, and Bob for serving as our greeter, Joy for playing the piano. Okay, next week, no service. It is the Honolulu Buddhist Council's Buddha Day virtual service that starts at 9:30, but they don't have the information out yet, so as soon as it's available, we will hear from them, and I'll pass it on to you. Now, yesterday and Friday, you know, I mentioned to you that they had the Dharma Through the Eyes of the Youth, and thanks to Joy and her team, it was put on a panel discussion by the Junior YBA, and it was Buddhist Study Center's spring seminar. And like me, you know, I thought, well, they're all young people, you know, I may not find anything in it. However, I did sign up, and I'm glad I did, and that was on Friday evening. There were 5 Junior YBA panelists. And I can tell you, if you're worried about the Honganji, if these people, young people, grow up and return, I think that our Honganji will survive. It's amazing how much they know and how much they got from the Yes camps. And every year, the Junior YBA asks us, all the temples, for a donation. And every year, we provide donations. But these young people from all the neighbor islands as well found so much in that camp as well as other youth programs that they have sort of internalized a lot of the teachings, and it was quite impressive, I must say. Now, one of the themes that I kept hearing was they found that the Shin Buddhists, or our temples, are very welcoming and that it's non-judgmental. There were a couple of speakers that said they came from mainly a Christian background, and one person, it was one of the adults, said, you know, he kept thinking why he chose to go to a Buddhist temple, and having grown up Christian, and it was because they had a young child that they wanted to start taking to temple or church. And he said, the Christians, you know, it's like, you know, everything is fine, we welcome you, we love you, but you got to follow these things. And he says, in Shin Buddhism, we really don't have a but. You know, if you want to live your life as an LGBTQ person, that's fine. And there were actually a couple of young people that came out at their Sangha, and they found that they had so much support when they announced they're coming out at the Sangha. And I think, for me anyway, I find that that's the one thing about our religion that is very, very nice. Then, on Saturday, they had 4 adults. Many of them, as young men and women, had gone through these Yes camps, you know, locally. But some of them didn't do that, but they shared their aspects of what they gained from being a Shin Buddhist and what they're doing now. A lot of these people were people that are now guiding the youth and coordinating the Yes camps or the Dharma school. So I think that, you know, we need to support all of these programs, because if we don't have youngsters here, we can at least provide them monetary support so they can then continue the work that they have. And one of the seniors speakers said what I've been thinking is that, you know, you have to support these youth, because at some point, you know, what they're struggling with is you can have programs for the lower school, middle school, high school, even college. And once they leave for college, and there's that phase when most of us were in our mid-30s, 40s, when you're building a family, you're busy, and today's youth have so many activities that they don't come to temple. But if you instill in them enough, they will return. And I think you just kind of hang tight that these people will come back. And like I said when I sent out the flyers to encourage people to attend this, is that we may not have the young people here, but there are young people all over the state. And who knows, they might end up living in the Windward side, and they will eventually become members. And that's how I would hope that we would see that and try to encourage these types of programs. So I wanted to share that with you. And also, in the same line, I also sent out flyers that say May 1st, we don't have services here. We used to have a Honolulu District Dharma School picnic, and we wanted to encourage members to attend a picnic, but they haven't had one for the last several years. But the Dharma School, the state Dharma School is having a Dharma School gathering that's virtual as well, and it's only to 12:30. So in the morning, it's Dharma schools, and they do it virtually. They've been doing it virtually. And they even are considering continuing this because they have families that's on the mainland that they have no access to Dharma school. And when they hear about the Honganji having a virtual Dharma school, the parents as well as the children, and they said that's the one nice thing about the pandemic, you know, the families can sit in their living room and go to Dharma school, you know, rather than thinking I gotta drive the kids to temple and I gotta hang out, but they do it together. So they too are considering continuing that because they have so many people that have joined. So that is on May 1st, and I hope that some of you would consider listening in on that. And then I think the last hour and a half, it's for adults, and they'll talk about Dharma school and, you know, what they do and what help they might need. Okay, next month we have our Hanamatsuri, or Buddha Day, and it's on the 10th, and Reverend Irene Nakamoto is our guest, plus it's Bingo Sunday. So those of you, plan on that. April 17 is Ishini and Kakushini Day, and for those of you that may not know what it's all about, this is a service that we recognize our founder, Shinran Shonin's wife and daughter. They did a lot to grow the Honganji. And our guest speaker is Reverend Kumika Soga. So she will be here. And there's several other educational opportunities if you want to join in. And thanks to virtual programs, the Kauai Honganji Council Nembutsu Seminar is having a conference, I guess, in tying in with the Ishini Day kind of thing. Women in Buddhism, Historical Approach, and their guest speaker is Reverend Mutsumi Wonjo. I think she's from
Orange County.
Orange County, that's right. There's really great speakers, so it's on Tuesday, April 26th from 5 to 7, and I'll have this posted. Then, April 24 is our Earth Day service, and there's another interesting educational program, and this is jointly sponsored by the Buddhist Churches of America, their Social Welfare Committee, with the Hompa Honganji Mission of Hawaii's Committee on Social Concerns. It's called the Interdependent Lives, Food, Waste, and Sustainability. It's an educational Zoom event on food waste reduction, composting with worms, and going compostable at Obong. So, you know, they're giving us tips. That's on Saturday, April 16 from 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. It's going to run about an hour, 45 minutes. And who are the speakers? You know, I couldn't print what that, so I ended up having to cut and paste, but their speakers are Mindy Jaffe. It's a relation to you. He's a co-founder and coordinator of the Windward Zero Waste School Hui owner of the Waikiki Worm Company. He's a longtime champion of waste reduction through composting for homes and institutions. She's a co-founder and coordinator of the Winter, anyway. So, then the other speaker is Ron Hamakawa. He's from the Seattle Betsuing Buddhist Temple. He's a district manager in food and nutrition services, serving multiple healthcare institutions across Western Washington. And he is the chair of the Seattle Betsuing Buddhist Temple's Bon Odori. And he has managed to move all compostable food containers and utensils for the 2-day festival and other Betsuing event over the 10 years. So it includes collection of food waste, food, soiled containers, utensils, and anyway, so it would be interesting. You know, during the pandemic, we haven't had refreshments here, and you remember prior to that, we were trying to go green here, and we decided we're gonna cut back on the paper goods, and then everybody was bringing their own utensils and so forth. And now we're back to, putting it in paper bags so you can take away. And, from groups that have been preparing it, I think it's a lot more manageable way of providing refreshments. But, who knows what may happen. But anyway, the other thing we're looking for is we're trying to reorganize our storage room. And our storage room has all kinds of stuff. One of it is the container that we had the plates in. So when we have the board meeting, we'll talk about how much we want to push the going green here. And so I'll get back to you if we're going to change that format. Let's see. Any other announcements that I may have? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mel. Yeah, there's 2 big boxes. We have our food drive. It started last week and it will end on the 17th of April. So that's our first food drive for the year. Anything else? Thanks, Joy, for the nice session with your youth. All right, we will have, we can go to a social side for refreshments. I hope you decide to stay. So thank you for attending, and again, no service next week, but we'll see you back on the 10th for our Hanamatsuri.
Prudence,
Hi.
we should have words of thanksgiving since we're going
I was just thinking about, the last few times. Okay, remember, words of thanksgiving, we should do that. All right. We are truly grateful for this wonderful food, a gift of life. May we share its benefits with all beings. As we partake of this food, let us remember the Buddha's compassion that surrounds all people and all forms of life. Namu Amida Butsu. Itadakimasu.